Our Natural Wisdom. So glad to be here with you again for episode 77 of Reclaim Your Peace with Mother Earth. Thanks for joining. I am an eco-intuitive life coach and teacher, and I'm here to help you learn simple practices that allow you to release anxiety and also hear the wisdom of your beautiful intuition, which is the language of your soul. So today I am called to speak to boundaries, which is a topic that I have touched on several times in the past. And I'm out in our lovely native gardens. They are going to be assisting in this teaching today through some wisdom that I received as I was working in the gardens recently. And I also wanted to start with the wonderful phrase by Brene Brown, which is to choose discomfort over resentment. And boy, I've read that now several times from Brene Brown, and it just speaks to me so deeply to choose discomfort over resentment. And I feel like this is so applicable to discussing boundaries, of course. Summertime, requires a lot of changes in our lives, if we have kids especially. And the idea of setting clear boundaries in the summer, both for our kids and also for ourselves, regardless of whether you have children. I know that boundaries can be a really hot topic in the summer. I hope that my video is okay on your end. Something went a little goofy, but I'm just going to keep on going. Okay. So summertime schedules can look a lot different. We can feel that we need to set some, boundaries and schedules for both ourselves and our kids. We might also be realizing that we need to set more clear boundaries in personal relationships with loved ones, with work relationships. There can be so many different areas of our lives where setting more clear boundaries can really help us. And I have to say that I almost feel a little, I feel there's a part of me that feels a little bit like a fraud when I talk about boundaries, because the truth is that I have only really started to learn how to set boundaries. And sorry, we've got the tornado test alarm going right now. Welcome to the Midwest. Just a test, though. It'll be done soon. I I kind of feel like a fraud when I talk about boundaries, like I say, because I didn't have boundary setting modeled to me well in my childhood. And I've really only started to come to a full realization of that there were definitely lines that weren't to be crossed. But a lot of times I didn't know exactly where those lines were, and I only found out after I crossed them. That's not a particularly healthy or functional way of experiencing life, especially when you're a child and you're, trying to figure out your way in the world, and just, the space that you have to work with them. And I don't fault my parents. I think that they, certainly did the best that they could. But I experienced the you know, um, result of crossing a boundary, but I never really acquired the ability to set boundaries very well. And this became a big issue once I became a parent, of course, and co-parenting with somebody else. I mean, boundaries, hi, thanks for joining. Thanks so much. Um, Boundaries can be, a challenge for so many of us. And so I've been really working with the whole concept of boundaries recently, personally. And as I was working in our gardens, in our native gardens, just the other day, I just had a whole bunch of information kind of download to me about boundaries and about how it is important to choose to experience some discomfort rather than set yourself up for long-term resentment, which can happen so easily when we don't set and maintain and, first of all, identify the need for setting boundaries in our lives, right? So my little story with the garden and with the lessons that the plants shared, this particular plant, Golden Alexander, is a lovely native plant. It is a spring bloomer. It has a beautiful yellow bloom. They're past bloom right now. One of the things that I really like about them is how they have like a star pattern with their seed heads. So beautiful. And there's a number of butterflies and moths that use Golden Alexander as their host plant. So, of course, Golden Alexander is one of those plants that a lot of us plant in our native gardens. Well, they really went nuts in our native garden, right? There were a lot of them. It was really beautiful when they were blooming, but then I started looking more carefully at what was going on in our garden, and I could see that these plants were really driving out a lot of other plants that we had purposefully, you know, welcomed into our garden because we wanted to create a diversity of life, a diversity of plants that are available for birds and bees and moths and everybody. And so then I, started thinking, well, I really need to weed out some of these Golden Alexander. And I realized that there was a part of me that really had a hard time with that. It was a level of discomfort that I was feeling, not unlike the discomfort that I have felt when I have set boundaries in the past with loved ones, with our children, even with myself, and setting clear boundaries on what, I intended to do and following through on that with the discipline that is required in following through on boundaries. And I realized that this plant, the Golden Alexander, was sharing with me that it is okay to set those boundaries. It is quite all right because it all comes down to your intention. What is the intention that you have in setting these boundaries? And the vast majority of time, and appropriately so, we set boundaries as a way of caring for ourselves, as a way of showing ourselves how much we love ourselves. And another wonderful quote from Brene Brown about this is daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. I'm going to read that again. Daring to set boundaries is having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. And that's really the rub, right? Because it's not necessarily the boundary setting that is a challenge for us that brings up discomfort. It is the risk that we are going to disappoint others. And yet, this is how we honor ourselves and how we really, love ourselves throughout our lives. So as I was working in our gardens and, just spending time with all of our plants, including the Golden Alexander, I was realizing that reducing how many Golden Alexander there were within our garden was an expression of love. And it's not necessarily an expression of love to myself, but to the intention and to the commitment that we have made in creating a native garden for a diversity of wild things. Just because we are choosing to provide this garden doesn't mean that it should be, you know, run amok, that it should be allowed to actually go crazy and do whatever it wants. Now, if you choose to have a garden like that, go for it. More power to you. That was not our intention. And I realized that it was about managing. It was about managing those boundaries and about the discipline to continue managing them. So through gardening and seeing how all of these little seedlings were coming up and that needed to be weeded out, that needed to be thinned out, it's not unlike being aware of the thoughts that come into our minds throughout our days that bring us a feeling that something is off. Something could be better. I could be honoring myself and honoring my space, honoring my time more deliberately. These are the ways that we choose to love ourselves and to honor ourselves through creating those boundaries, not just creating them, but of course, maintaining them and managing them over time. And, as I was working in our gardens, I also had the presence, the intention that this was being done through love, that this was a loving action. So now I know that some people would say, they're just plants. Who cares? Pull them out. They're fine. When you develop a deeper relationship with Mother Earth and with all of the healing and wisdom that she is offering to you, it may actually bring up discomfort to weed plants, especially if they are plants that you intentionally planted in your garden. And I'll admit that it did bring up some discomfort, but as I was working in the garden, I had this like continual monologue with, I should say, a conversation with the plants, just letting them know, you're welcome here. We just need to reduce how many of you are here. You really love this space. I'm so happy that you love this space, but we need to make a little more space for vervain or for the asters or for the prairie smoke. There's all sorts of other plants here that we want to nurture and to provide a diversity, to provide a real place of elevated life force energy, not only for the plants and for all of the pollinators and all of the animals that visit our gardens, but also for me. When we choose to create these spaces for ourselves, they are truly sacred places. As I talk about all the time and share with my clients and my students and teaching how to create an eco-intuitive garden with native plants, these are sacred spaces. In fact, I've recently come to realize that these are like altars for me. These are like powerful energy centers. Essentially, they are a form of an altar, a living, breathing altar that I am offering up to Mother Earth to help her to heal. And as I offer these spaces up, she is helping me to heal. This is exactly what our native gardens enable us to do. And when we look at our gardens, as we consider creating boundaries and maintaining those boundaries over time, it is really a reminder that everything evolves. Our gardens are evolving just as you are evolving. So as you are evolving through this crazy journey of life, be very aware of those thoughts that you are having that are popping up like little seedlings throughout your garden, and begin to understand that you have the ability and are actually encouraged by your soul to honor yourself and to manage your thinking, to choose to recognize when you feel that things are off kilter, that you can see those thoughts that you're having. You can identify the places in your life where new boundaries or enhanced boundaries or the maintenance of boundaries is necessary. This is one of the most beautiful lessons that we can receive by working with gardens. How to continually evolve, how to recognize all of the life force energy that is meant to be flowing through you as you honor yourself and choose to set, maintain, and nurture the boundaries that will bring you greater healing, greater peace, and greater joy in your life. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed today's teaching. And here in the end, I just encourage you to take some nice, deep breaths. Come back to your heart. You just received a lot of information from Mother Earth and all of her wisdom. Taking some nice deep breaths, really intentionally allowing all of that wisdom to be integrated into your full understanding and full awareness. See where you have boundaries that are coming forward to be set in your life. And ask your beautiful soul, ask the divine, however you define that, to show you the way in setting those boundaries. Setting those boundaries and knowing that they may include an experience of discomfort, but that is okay. You can experience discomfort because you do not want to experience resentment. Choose discomfort over resentment. If this spoke to you, I would love to have the opportunity to talk with you one-on-one through a free breakthrough session. This is a 1-hour phone call with me where we can talk about where you're at right now, where you would like to go, and how eco-intuitive life coaching, working with Mother Earth, can support you in the most beautiful ways. You can click the link down below to schedule your free breakthrough session at your convenience, or you could simply go to ournaturalwisdom.com/breakthrough. I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks on Tuesday, June, 17th, I believe it is, right here on on YouTube Live at 10 a.m. Central Time. I will see you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.